Hi guys, welcome back. This is Sabrina N,
Holla.
and this is episode 3 of East Intersection.
Yep. Today's topic is a little more sensitive, I would say, within our cultures at least. It's mental health. I mean, I think it's an important topic that we should discuss. What do you think?
Yeah, we're gonna get into mental health this episode.
Yeah,
Talk about all the pressures and stuff like that.
right.
Mental health is a really prevalent issue in Somali communities. What about you?
I mean, like I said last episode a little bit, it is kind of, but it's really depending on who's raising you, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is between both parents. For instance, my mom, she does sometimes, but not often. My dad's a little more, he speaks about mental health a little more. I don't know about you, but like, when do you ever find yourself like not depressed, but sometimes in a situation where you just don't know if you can talk to someone like within your community at least.
Yeah, of course. I think it's just in human nature to find yourselves not knowing what to do
Mhm.
and just hitting a roadblock.
Mhm.
But within the Somali community, because we're just so heavily reliant on Islam, and
Mhm.
which is not a bad thing, of
Yeah, of
course.
course.
It's a very good virtue and amazing thing to be reliant on your religion.
Right.
And so, not to say but
Mhm.
oftentimes when Somali kids or just like kids in general find themselves going through a depressive episode
Mhm.
and they turn to their parents will also just like they'll say like, okay, like you're not praying,
Mm.
or like turn to God,
Mhm.
like you shouldn't be depressed, you have food on your plate,
Mm.
you have a roof over your head, like get
Mhm.
over it, you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Not to get over it.
Yeah, honestly, this is
Mhm.
like literally like you have no reason to be depressed,
Right. Right.
which is true
In a way.
in a way, but
Yeah.
also you can't
But
invalidate someone's emotions like
exactly,
that.
exactly. I was just
So,
about to say.
mhm.
I mean, me specifically, my dad, he can get into the topic. My mom, not as much. Sometimes, very rarely though.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, just being able to talk to someone. I think is very
Yeah.
important. Our culture doesn't, our East African culture doesn't really, in a way, you know, like talk about it. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how else to put that.
Yeah, of course, of course. Um, yeah, a lot of, especially over here, you see a lot of Somali people, like younger people, getting into like becoming therapists and stuff like that to help the
Mm,
community because
okay.
it is such a prevalent issue. Like when I'm saying it's a prevalent issue, like it's actually like a big problem within the Somali community.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, instead of seeking help, they'll like turn to like other coping mechanisms,
Yeah.
such as like drugs or
Mm.
stuff like that, which is another problem in itself.
Exactly. I think it makes more problem, especially in the eyes of parents, because they don't want
Yeah.
to see their kids doing,
Yeah, of
such.
course.
So, for sure. I mean, but that's the thing. You can avoid it. You
Mhm.
can really avoid it by talking to your kids, making sure they're all right, making
Yeah.
sure they're comfortable with everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, do you see like the pressure from parents affecting the child's mental health?
Yeah, I feel like that's maybe where it starts from. Not always,
Mhm.
but a lot of the times people do get depressed, and depression can be, I think, hereditary.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
if your parents carry that trauma, it
Mhm.
will be passed down to the children
Definitely.
more often
Okay.
than not. Yeah.
It's good that you bring that up because I was actually at a session once.
Mhm.
It was actually like an Islamic
Mhm.
lesson, to say the least. But it was somebody who's like like the older generation. But she was talking about how when one parent goes through one thing, like
Yeah.
they pass it on to their kids without realizing.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. So like
Yeah.
really like how you also even how you treat your parents, your kids will treat you. Either
Yeah.
both ways.
Of course.
Exactly. So it's kind of like in a way ending that tradition of not talking about, mental health or if making sure their kids are alright, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Make sure if your parents are alright. They
Yeah.
don't they really don't. That's one thing. Parents, they don't want to tell their kids if they're upset or
Of course.
anything like that. But
They
you can
bottle everything up.
exactly,
Yeah.
and then, they don't talk about it, but you don't know how they're feeling on the inside. So it's
Mhm.
important to check on your parents too, not only the parents checking on the kids,
Of
if that
course,
makes
but
sense.
that within itself is a problem because when
Yeah.
you're constantly bottling up your emotions and everything,
Mhm.
you could be um expressing them in a not so healthy way onto your
Yeah.
kids.
Right.
So, I'm someone who's like going through something themselves, a parent or imagine, could be always matters and they're always yelling at their kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that itself is gonna put some pressure onto the child and give them some issues to work through themselves.
Right.
And as a child, you can't look up to your parent, and as a parent, you don't want to look down to your child.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's just there's no connection there.
Yeah. Exactly.
At all.
Exactly. I mean, do you think there's a way to avoid these kind of pressures?
I think a way to avoid them is to just get over the fact that like there's. I think it stems from pride as well, because you don't want anybody to know.
Like
very subtly, it stems from pride, because you don't want
Right.
anybody to see you down.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I'm depressed. Like that makes me look weak.
Exactly.
But people need to realize like we're all human.
Right,
Like,
right.
No one's gonna be perfect.
And that's one thing. I think most if East Africans, if not all, like they were kind of taught to keep their pride, like to
Yeah.
always have
For
to be
sure.
proud of themselves, to not let
Mhm.
anybody see them, sad or
Mhm.
depressed or
Mhm.
anything like that. And it's kind of sad to say, like you see it within your friends too, even though like they were like, for instance, like I have one friend, she's born here, but she wasn't talking about how she was depressed. I found it out recently,
Okay.
and so like it's important to talk about, because otherwise, people make their assumptions to
Mhm.
say the least, and
Mhm.
just to avoid it, and like just talk
People,
about it.
People talk.
Yeah.
You know. So I feel like there is that sense of embarrassment when people do reach out help and someone else figures out like, oh, so and so's child's depressed. Like, oh, what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that type of thing. So there's a lot of problems that need to be, and a lot of stigmas that need to be just like
That's
discarded.
yeah.
Discarded. We need to do a lot of things for each other within the Somali community. It's not always like, I know we're a close community, we're close knit. Like if something happens to someone's family, we're always quick to
Yeah, to help
get
out.
together. If someone's son passes away, God forbid, get together,
Yeah.
put some money in,
Right, right.
like provide for them a little bit.
Right.
But
I've noticed. I've noticed.
Yeah, so it's little things like that which are helpful, but also you can put that energy into something else as well.
Yeah, to make sure they're emotionally okay,
Mhm.
Like you're
Just-
helping them, of course, but
Of course,
like
just talk to your kids,
Yeah.
And if you can't talk to them, like take them to therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy is such a it's so
It's not talked about.
yeah,
not talked
it's like
about.
such a big thing.
Yeah.
Like people are scared of
Yeah.
oh, therapy.
Yeah, like, what happened to her? Is her parents,
Yeah,
making
such
her
a
feel
big
this
stigma around
way,
therapy,
or
like it's a bad thing.
Sometimes it's not even like the pressure from parents that gets somebody like depressed or anything like that, like the child. It could be school, you know what I mean? It could
Of
be
course.
work, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The more you talk about it, the more you could avoid all of these again, assumptions, at the end of the day. Yeah, man. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Because we're in school, I think we can relate it back to school. Of course, there's a lot of kids, not only with East Africans, but I feel like a lot of immigrant children feel this pressure to become someone.
Yeah, exactly.
And do something big. And when they can't fulfill that requirement, because sometimes it is a requirement, you have no other choice.
Right.
They just feel very depressed. They get into a depressive episode. God forbid, sometimes some people commit suicide, which is another big issue. Someone shouldn't be driven to kill themselves just because they were succumbed to so much pressure from their parents. You know what I mean? When a parent does, like, it's not something. It's something that's preventable. That's the biggest issue. Like that's the saddest part about it. You could have just spoke to them.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
it is a very, very like sad topic, but it's like we gotta work on it. It's not too late, if that makes sense. Yeah,
of course, never too late.
You're right. So we talked a little bit about students, and a student. I mean, they could avoid these pressures, or not pressures, or talk about mental health, or talk about how they're feeling with like in school. I believe there's like some like people who can help, like
there's sources you can reach out to.
Right. Do you see people often doing that though? I don't see it.
With university, I feel like it's a collective experience to go through a depressive episode in university. Like, it's not something uncommon.
Right.
You see a lot of students just going through hard times, tough times, and
Mhm.
it's just considered normal at this point. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point of seeking help if it's just an experience everybody goes through.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But everything affects people at different rates.
You know what? You do see students, going and to those sources, to say
Mhm.
the least. But do you see East Africans?
East Africans specifically?
I don't see it.
No, I don't think so.
Right. And I don't know, is it like in a way, like, is there a reason why? I'm wondering, like, is it because of what we mentioned? Is it because, their pride, or they don't want to be embarrassed if somebody finds out, or.
Yeah, I do feel like, I'm not saying they're not doing anything, because I do feel like a lot of people in the younger generation are trying to like break the like
The stigma.
not necessarily the stigma, just like break the cycle of a multitude of Somali kids going through mental health problems. I remember when I was the beginning of like, or the ending of like 2020 or 2021. The years are blurred. Like,
I know,
like,
since COVID.
Cause of COVID, like the last 3 years are like the same.
Literally.
But
I forgot
yeah,
2020. I love 2020. Like,
yeah, literally. But I was on Clubhouse.
okay.
Clubhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on Clubhouse, and there's a room with a Somali therapist, a Somali woman. And everybody was just getting on there talking about mental health issues, going through it. And there's a lot of rooms like that, and it made me feel like a sense of like happiness. I was like, yo, like, look at them getting together,
Yeah.
and doing things for each other,
That's
which
good.
is amazing. And I feel like a lot of the times there are places people can go to get help, but it's the fact that they don't want to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a big barrier as well.
All right. I'm not gonna lie. Me myself, like, personally, I've thought about, like, talking to someone, but I don't know. I'm content with the religion, honestly. That helps me the most. And like, my parents do emphasize it, but they do talk about it too. Like, they do talk to me at the same time. So at the end of the day, somebody's still hearing you. You know what I mean? They're paying attention. They're knowing how you feel. And yeah, so I mean, that's me personally. I mean, do you see yourself personally? Like, do you?
Me personally, I'm just not someone that talks about their emotions at all.
Oh.
Like, regardless, like my parents, my friends, like, I'm just not someone to express myself.
Do you want to?
No, not necessarily.
That's one thing. It's also if the person wants to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just when you spend so long just keeping to yourself, you find no point in it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily healthy, and I don't condone that behavior. So
you're like, don't be like me.
Yeah, do not be like me, please. If anybody finds yourself just like not being able to reach out, like, if you don't have that one friend, because I know some people like have friends that will pressure them into speaking about what they want to speak about.
I mean, I attempt with people.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God, please. I have those friends, but it can't break me. But I also feel like that's the way I was raised.
Maybe I'll break you.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see in the future. But I also feel like that was the way I was raised.
Yeah.
Being the youngest. In my family, I don't know about if it was in other people's families.
Yeah.
But in my family specifically, when I see my older siblings going through something, everything's like hush hush. Like, they keep to themselves. They go through their issues by themselves, and they get through it. So I have no access to them.
Yeah.
So when it's my turn, I'm going through something. Like, why would I give you access to myself if you never give me access to you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, I see.
So it's that type of thing as well.
I see.
Which is also very horrible.
You know what? I would say, like, for me, whenever I did want to talk about like a situation or anything, I'd usually go to my dad.
Yeah.
Because he's the type who would want to, hear me out, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I would talk with him, but it'd only be me and him. It wouldn't be with like my other siblings there or something. And I know he did that with the rest of my siblings as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? And it was like we all knew it, but we just never said anything to each other until after like he passed away. We started to like
talk to each other.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And we like, oh, daddy told me this and this and that. Oh, he told me this. Like, it's just you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So essentially, at the end of the day, like, I'm still talking to someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's amazing to have that support system.
Exactly. And I feel like we need to see it more often.
Yeah.
So to all the parents and children out there, build that connection, that relationship.
Yeah, of course, hopefully. But sometimes, like, that in itself, when you do express yourself to your parents, not every single parent is strong enough to handle their child's emotions. You know what I mean? So sometimes when you express yourself to your parent, they're gonna have a breakdown themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just gonna be an even bigger mess.
But that's the thing. It's there, but like that emotional, like that's how you know they care. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
of course.
yeah, emotions are there for a reason. Crying is there for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Out of
course.
happiness, out of sadness, out of
Yeah.
guilt or anything. So I mean,
But then again, if you guys are religious people or you're very spiritually based,
mhm,
there's always gonna be that there's always gonna be that connection you have from your religion. There's always gonna be that
definitely,
sense of reaching out to your Lord
yes,
instead of reaching out to His creations,
right,
which is you should be doing that.
yeah,
But if you feel yourself stuck in a spot, always speak to someone.
yes,
Like it's not gonna do any harm.
yes,
And unless you don't trust the person, you know, like speak to someone you trust,
right,
please.
100%.
Yeah.
Somebody who won't expose you, or somebody who won't what's the word, gaslight you,
Yeah,
or
of course.
someone who won't use it against you or something like that. So
Or speak to yourself.
literally,
Yeah,
write
really,
it down.
Write a letter.
People do journals or diaries.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that pour their emotions in their notes app.
My sister does.
Yeah.
My youngest sister, she does it and she's content with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing. You could, if you have any type of outlet, it's
Right.
an outlet at the end of the day,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So give yourself that form of expression.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's funny because she looks back at it and she either
Mhm.
laughs or she reflects on it.
Yeah.
It's just good to
Because
keep.
when you do write things out, you realize there's a solution to everything.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
When you keep everything bottled in, you're just gonna have that clouded thought of like, oh, everything's like not working out, everything's against me. You're not gonna have that root. Like when you write everything out, you see a solid path.
Exactly. Visual representation.
Yeah.
Literally.
Of course.
Okay, so a little bit about these pressures. Like I talked about French studies and how I did that as my academic route.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you studying?
Right now, I'm in a concurrent education program, so I'm gonna do.
Oh yeah, you did say teaching.
Yeah, it's basically my undergrad and teachers college in one, so I'm getting 2 different degrees. It's nice. Alhamdulillah, you know?
Yeah.
It's good. Do I want to do it? No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Me, myself, I'm not a people person. You know what I mean? Like, like if I had to choose, I wouldn't want to be around kids all day.
Yeah. It's just a part of kind of being introverted, you know what I mean? Yeah, that is.
Yeah, like if I see myself like when I was younger, I used to see myself in like an office job or in the medical field where I'm like to myself, you know, doctors.
Right.
Of course, they're dependent on nurses and stuff, but they're usually to themselves. You know what I mean? Or an office job, like I'm in my office. You know what I mean? I never saw myself around kids or anything, but I was always told like, yo, you'd be a great teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be a great teacher. You'd be a great teacher. And like, you know what? Everybody, like, I'm getting constantly that feedback into my mind. Like, you'd be a great teacher. Oh my God, maybe I am a great teacher, you know? So I applied. Alhamdulillah, I got in. I also applied to public health and nursing. I got into public health.
Yeah.
Nursing. No. I didn't apply to nursing.
Oh, you didn't?
Last minute I was told not to.
Yeah.
See, that's another thing. Like, I wanted to apply to nursing. I wanted to do nursing, but a lot of people that I know personally, like, took me against it because it was a lot of pressure. I know someone that did go into nursing, and unfortunately it wasn't the greatest path for them.
Yeah.
And school was a little too hard. And, you know, like, that in itself. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it.
Right.
But, yeah, it wasn't so great. People, because of that, turned me away from it. So I just decided not to apply to it.
Right.
And then for public health, I was told teaching is better than public health. But then, joke's on them because the pandemic came.
Yeah.
And everybody's relying on public health right now. So
literally.
Yeah. So anyways, I came into teaching. I'm probably going to stay in it just because, like, I'm content and I don't really want to change.
Yeah. It's like once you got it, you got it. Like, you're set. You're set. I know.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to do it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, me myself, you guys already know I'm doing French studies. I did think about architecture.
Me too, when I was younger.
When you were younger?
Yeah, when I was younger.
I applied, unfortunately waitlisted, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing. One thing is that when I was applying to schools, my parents wanted me to stay in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's me too.
You-
For
yeah.
respiratory therapy,
Uh-huh.
the university or college was outside of Ontario.
Right. And so they're like, no.
Yeah, my mom's like, hell no, like you're not applying there. And I was like, you know what? Okay.
No, literally, like, my parents were like, no, you're not going outside of Toronto. So I only
Yeah.
had really one choice, which was Ryerson, that
Mhm.
actually does, like,
Oh
architectural,
my god, me too.
not the studies. U of
Yeah.
T, they do the studies, but
Mhm.
it was actually, oh, no, they do the theory. But the one at Ryerson, like, it's hands-on. Like, you do a
Oh,
co-op
okay.
and
Yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah, yeah.
afterwards, you know? And they were only accepting, like, 122 students that year.
Mhm.
So I'm not surprised I didn't get it.
Come on, have some faith.
But no, it's what's meant to be is meant to be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
French studies was my second choice, and I'm good at it. So why not? You know?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
It was honestly like I was like, what kind of career path would I have with French studies? And
Oh, come on now. Everybody wants a French speaker.
I
Everybody wants a
know,
francophone. Come
I
on
know.
now.
They do, and I didn't realize it then, but I did
Yeah.
now. And alhamdulillah, it was for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you know, it's good. It's good. I mean,
Mhm. What is that something you wanted to do?
initially, no.
Do you have passion in it?
Do I have
At all?
passion in it? Kind of. I like speaking the language. 100%. I like communicating with people. Before, I don't think I was as extroverted as I am
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
But I think that's because of learning so many different languages. You want to like test yourself out with other people.
Yeah.
So, I think that has like a major influence on who I am, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about how we made that decision. Have you ever experienced occupation pressure when you were applying for university? Did you think about what kind of job you would have
That's-
in the future?
That's literally all I went through.
Oh.
Like, I never like the things I chose, like the things I ended up choosing and actually applying for. I never had passion in. Like I couldn't like it wasn't something I saw myself in. Like
Yeah.
oh my god, like I want to do this.
Mhm.
Like I'm passionate about it. Let me do it.
Mhm.
It was more so like, oh, this is stable. People like it. Let me do it.
Right,
You know,
right.
it was like that constant feedback I was getting from the people behind me.
Mhm.
'Cause me, I'm not like growing up. I wasn't a person to necessarily make decisions for myself.
Mhm.
Like people always made decisions for me, and I just went along with it.
And I feel like it's because you're the youngest in your family.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, we already experienced a lot. Let's
Mhm.
just pass it on.
Yeah, and I used to get me so pissed when I was younger, 'cause like my oldest siblings would be like, "Yo, don't do this." Like it didn't work out for me. Like we're not the same
Well,
person.
yeah, you
Like,
aren't.
Yeah, like let me go through. Let me fail myself.
Yeah.
Like I won't yell at you.
That's
At the end of the day, I'm gonna go through it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure out what to do next for next time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna learn from my mistakes. But if no one ever lets me make those mistakes,
That's exactly what it is. Everybody,
Yeah.
sorry, everybody should have their own experiences.
of course,
Yeah.
of course.
For sure.
And I feel like older siblings unconsciously project that onto their younger siblings.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the third in the family. I'm the middle
Mhm.
child, you know. I mean, my brother, he's the second oldest, but
Mhm.
he's the only boy. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
technically the middle child.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody, I didn't have any pressure, I don't think, because
Oh, okay.
everybody's like, she's the middle child. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, let her be. Like, who cares, you know?
Mhm.
But after you do get into what you are, they're like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
They care after, not
Yeah.
before, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. It is what it is. But,
Yeah.
you know, they don't see your progress until you're at your final step, if that makes
Of
sense.
course, of course.
And they'll be like,
Yeah, bro. Even when I like suggested respiratory therapy to my mom, she was like, "Yo, what is that?" She was like, "Are you serious?" Like, you know, if it's something they never heard of, they're obviously gonna be like cautious about it.
Yeah.
Like, do you really wanna apply for that? Are you gonna be able to? God
Mhm.
forbid I told them I was like majoring in some arts stuff. Like, even though I am an arts major,
yeah.
they're gonna be like, "Bro, like you're wasting your degree."
No, the fact that you are an arts major, but the fact that
Yeah.
you're doing teaching,
Mm.
they know the term of
Yeah.
teaching, so they're like,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
If I wasn't doing this concurrent program
Mm.
and if I was just doing like an undergraduate in humanities,
Yeah.
which is like what I always say when someone asks me like, "Oh, what are you doing in university?" I say like, "I'm doing humanities."
Yeah.
And they look at me like, "What are you gonna do with that?" And I'm like, "You know, I'll figure it out."
You see, for me, I only asked because I didn't even know like much about it. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get the perspective where
Mhm.
people are asking because they don't even know anything about it. I get that, but
Yeah. No, no, a lot of people are just like, yo, that's a useless degree. And I'm like, yo,
yeah, you see,
go about your day.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Well, this was us talking a little bit about, mental health and, the pressures from parents,
Mhm.
how it affects us,
Yeah.
our life choices, what we're studying.
Mhm.
But we do have our guest speakers.
Yeah, two guest speakers.
Exactly. The hosts of Cousin Connection Pod, Sarah Ali and Amir Haroon. We did a little pre-recording, gave them some questions for them to answer. So you guys will be hearing that for like about 15 minutes, like them talking about,
Mhm.
their experiences, their, the pressures that they went through. So yeah, I hope you guys look forward to them. On to them.
Mhm. And we'll come back to you after their segment.
Hi, guys. My name is Sarah,
And my name's Amir.
and we are from the Cousin Connection podcast. So, we're going to get into some of these questions today. I'll ask the first one.
Mm-hmm.
How can the pressure from parents affect the child's mental health?
I believe that um, because parents, especially if you're a child of immigrants and you're first generation, like they have a lot of expectations because they feel like they brought you to this life, they brought you to this country to have a better life,
Mm-hmm.
and they expect you to choose a path that will, you know, i- like to say it straight up, to make that makes the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's a field that there's a very strict there's a certain amount of fields that they have in mind, which is usually like engineering, something in a
Lawyer,
medical
doctor.
field, doctor, lawyer. I don't hear that much.
Really?
Yeah, I guess yeah, lawyer can be one of those things now too.
Mm-hmm.
But just something that makes money, and because their view is like so um it's not really wide, if that makes sense, then if you have any passion that's kind of outside of that range, that small range they give you,
Mm.
then um you might do it to make them proud, but because you're not doing it for yourself, you end up with like conflict when you grow up and you find yourself in a career or in a place where you don't want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and you of course you may be making the money that they wanted you to make, but you're not happy.
Yeah.
And because you're not happy and you feel conflicted, because like you still want to make your parents proud, but you want to be able to do something that you see yourself doing for the rest of your life
Mm-hmm.
for yourself. But that conflict really can affect the mental health of their child or whoever they're pressuring, essentially. Well, in this case, your child.
Yeah. Okay. I can do the second question.
Here,
so.
I'll ask you this question. Okay,
Okay.
let's get it here. How can a student avoid these pressures? What academic route? Oh, this is sorry. This just going down the whole list. How can a student avoid these pressures?
I think that, we've, I was going to say, we've discussed this on our podcast. I think a way that they can avoid these pressures would be to have like an open conversation with your parents and kind of let them know what you are I know that people always say do what you're passionate about,
Yeah.
or work towards what you're passionate about. And if you are lucky enough to find your passion early on and you make that known to your parents, and kind of say, well, this is what I like to do and I want to find a way to make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that's not normal, but if it's like, let's say you really are passionate about engineering and that's what you want to do, but your parents really want you to be a doctor, you can kind of let them know, like, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I want to work towards, and I'm going to work hard towards achieving that. So
Mm-hmm.
allow me to do this. And I think that sometimes some parents, they'll have a harder time accepting that, but I think once they see that you are dedicated and you're willing to work hard, they might start to support you in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like also being well researched in what you want to pursue. That doesn't fall in line with what they expect of you. Really helps.
Yeah.
Because if you can show them that it's been done before, that it is a career path that will. Because usually for them it's all about the money at the end of the day.
Because they just look for financial stability.
Exactly. Because
right?
it makes sense, right? They came from almost nothing. At least a majority did.
Yeah.
So if you can show them that it is lucrative,
Mm-hmm.
then and you're well researched, then
Mhm.
it's easier to convince them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What academic route can you take after enrollment? So once you've enrolled into a class, like, what would you suggest for students? Like, what route can they take?
What does that mean, like, specifically? I don't understand.
Because, like, sometimes people will enroll into a program and they just stick in it because they're like, well, I don't want to quit. But there are other options where, sometimes you can take, I can't remember what the program is called, but it's called like where you don't have it's undeclared or undecided major, and you take a little bit of everything
Yeah.
to kind of decide what you actually enjoy learning and what you enjoy partaking in. And I would say that's the route that you should take. If you don't know what you want to do, take an undecided major for a year.
Yeah.
And take a whole bunch of different classes, and you can kind of get a rough idea of what's, what you like, what you don't like. And if you still aren't sure, do a second year in your undecided major.
Yeah.
And
I think also, like,
focus on that.
people don't ask enough questions. Like, if you
Yeah.
or they don't like ask people who have already done it, essentially, right? Like, if you're curious, you still don't know what to do, like, ask the people who have done it
Yeah.
in those different fields. Like, and even schools have a lot of mentors, or not mentors, what do you call them? Counselors?
Student peers, counselors.
Yeah, peers and counselors who will be able to at least maybe guide you or help you make your final decision. You might find after speaking to someone that maybe this isn't the right path that you should be taking. Maybe you're in the wrong place,
Yeah.
and you want to find that out earlier,
Yeah.
sooner rather than later,
Mm-hmm.
before you're spending all that money on the courses.
That's true too.
Exactly.
So what did you study in university or college?
So I went into college for electrical engineering. Still following the path at that point. For the parents, I did have an interest in it to begin with. So, and I did a co-op program, got a job out of it. So I didn't follow the traditional path in the sense of going straight to going to university. Well, I did go to university actually, but I found out that it's not for me. I preferred the more hands-on learning experience. So I switched over to college, and over there I found it was a lot more smoother. Like, I didn't have any hard time getting into it. I loved the difference between university and college, like how it was more hands-on there.
Yeah.
And I had more opportunities there. So I graduated there and was able to get a career in engineering.
Good for you. I did human resources and sociology.
I keep forgetting that you have to answer questions too.
It's okay.
This is an interview of me.
So I did that at York University. I did my HR certificate while I was there, and then I got my degree in sociology. So that's what I did. And now I work in pensions. I don't know if that was part of the question, but whatever.
Yeah.
How did you make that decision, and was it your choice?
So the initial decision of going straight to university, I wouldn't say it's my choice. I think I was just following the beaten path, like the path that everybody's kind of followed and that's essentially how your high school kind of puts it to you. Like, they don't really show you that there are multiple options. I wish that high school did show you that there are multiple options, or made it more clear, so that my parents also understood how it worked out. But yeah, I just what was the question again? It's
how did you make that decision, and was it
yeah?
your
So
choice?
I kind of just made the decision to satisfy my parents and at the time, and then but of course dropping out of university was my decision.
Yeah.
And it was mostly my decision. And going to college was definitely my decision too. And like at that point, once I dropped out, like at that point I was I had the reins there, and I started making all the decisions for myself. I just wished I found that out earlier before spending all that money at university.
Yeah.
And wasting all that time. Well, not wasting, you every experience you can learn something from it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot from that.
For me, I think I'm the same. I kind of I remember that process of applying to university. And I did recognize, like, they did mention college, but it wasn't as advertised as university was. So I thought about it for like a split second, but I was like, well, I mean, my parents want me to go to university, so that's what I'm going to do. As for my program, I once upon a time wanted to be a lawyer.
Really?
Yeah, but then I changed my mind because I was like, you know what, I really wanted to have a good work-life balance when I was older. And I knew, because I did a co-op actually in 10th grade for a law firm, and I asked them all the questions that I wanted to know ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me the realities of it, and so I decided like this isn't for me. And then when I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was actually leaning more towards accounting. I think it's 'cause my brother did that.
Yeah.
But then after that, I realized like I was good at it, but it was so boring to me, and I was like, I don't think I could do this for the rest of my life. So then I asked my brother for help, and I kind of looked into HR because I didn't know what it was before.
Yeah.
And he mentioned it to me. So I did a lot of research, and I figured like a lot of what the day-to-day tasks, and I guess the whole purpose behind an HR manager is something that really interested me. And so I kind of made my decision to do that in school.
Okay.
Let's see. Have you ever experienced occupation pressure when applying for university?
Occupation pressure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think that means like
Oh, like what
job pressures. Like knowing that you wanted to like make a 6-figure income, like, and so you're pressured to go to university because of that.
Yeah, like I guess well, yeah, that's exactly what we were mentioning earlier, right? Where you're kind of pressured into choosing to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, right? Like those were the only occupations that were really on their minds at the time, right? So I guess I would consider that an occupational pressure. Thankfully, like I sort of was interested, or I was mostly interested in engineering, anyways. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a pressure from the family.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
I think for me, kind of like I knew that lawyers had a pretty big income. And then when I shifted to human resources, I was kind of like, well, and sociology was also something that interested me as well. But I knew that I was like, I don't know what job I would get if I did social studies or sociology or whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew with HR you could get a decent income, so I was like, well, it'll work.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced occupation pressure? Oh wait, where did
We
that
already
one? Do you see yourself being content with your future occupation or your current occupation? What is your occupation? What do you do right now?
Well, now I'm like a PLC technician, if that makes sense. Like I work on control systems, and I like it. Like I get some hands-on work. Well, now with COVID and stuff, I'm doing a lot more in-office work. But I've done so much hands-on work at the beginning. I'm cool with just doing kind of office work at this point. So yeah, I'm content with what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Of course, like it's always over time when you do it, you're like, I want to try something new.
Yeah.
You know, we're podcasting now, so we're trying something new.
True.
So, but
maybe one day this will be our job.
Yeah, you never know.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
We're turning this into a podcast now. Let's just answer the question.
For me, yeah. So far, I work in pensions. My job, my daily tasks kind of consist of processing people's pensions when they start. So when they first retire, also processing pension stops when they pass away, and then transferring it to their beneficiaries. I also take care of income tax information. And we have like this sort of investing program at my company, so we also take care of that as well. So yeah, so far so good. I've been doing this for the past 2 years, and it is it's interesting. I've moved around already within a year of working there to a different department. So honestly, for me, as long as there is some sort of change, just so that I don't get too bored doing the same thing every day, then I'm good.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing. Maybe that's why I haven't gone bored, because our office, our company, is like so. I wouldn't say it's developing, but like it's always something's changing. We're always kind of we are developing, I guess, our own technology. We have our own technology, so the fact that that's been developing over time has kept things like interesting new. And new and different. So that's definitely kept our interest, or my interest.
Okay. Compared to how it was when you were doing schooling, do you see a difference between your generation's occupational journey compared to like the newer generation?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like now, like, because we're, at least in our community, like, we're kind of going into the second generation, or at least if we are still in the first generation, like, they kind of have us to look at.
Yeah.
And
Well, we're millennials. They're probably like Gen Zers.
yeah. So, and there's so many. We've shown in our own community that there's so many different career paths you can take. That, and the parents have been able to see that. So I feel like they'll be more open to the idea of them choosing maybe a different path that's not following those 3 traditional job or occupations that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like we've definitely benefited from that, and also with the internet being more, people are able to see more.
They're exposed to
more occupations, and just like different ways of making your career.
Yeah.
Then it's easier to convince them that you want to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, thinking back to when we were in high school, applying to universities and colleges, just post-secondary school, it seems so different to how it is now. Just as you've said. So I think that the pressures to do the big 3, if you want to call it that, lawyer, doctor, engineer, I think that has kind of, I think it's still rampant. The pressures are probably still there for some people, but it like the job market and the opportunities are have expanded so much that, like, you could really do anything and make more money than all of them. And then that kind of ties into the last question: do you feel that the new generation has more of a choice?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I think I've already covered that in the last question, or answered that in the last question.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, they definitely have more choices, but in terms of the parent pressure, I think, you know, usually if you are the younger child of the family, then you kind of have more of a choice. If you're the older sibling, I think there's a lot more pressure on you.
The pressure, I feel like the pressure is still there. Just the range is a lot wider now.
Yeah. As long as you're making money, I don't think they care what you do.
It's not super wide, but it's a little bit wider than it was before.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've kind of broken out a little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, those are the questions that we had. Thank you so much for listening.
Follow us on Cousin Connection Podcast, guys. Bye.
So that was Amir and Sada giving us the breakdown on some questions that we gave them.
Right.
Very thankful for their feedback.
Very, very much so. You can follow them at Cousin Connection Pod on Instagram, and they have the other socials there as well. So
make sure to check them out.
Exactly. All right, guys. This was episode 3 with Hala and Sabrina.
We'll see you guys in episode 4.
Bye-bye.